Namaskar. Hello and welcome to P Guru's channel. This is Three Good Generals. Today, General Rajiv Narayanan couldn't make it, but we have General Harimohan Iyer joining us. So let's welcome the Three Good Generals. Namaskar, gentlemen. How are you?
Good evening. How are you? And all fine.
Wonderful, sir. Good to see you on this panel, General Harimohan Iyer. And viewers, we're going to start with our Sunil Gavaskar. He's got a presentation that sets the stage for what exactly is CTBT. It's got other names also, Comprehensive Nuclear Ban Test Treaty and things of that nature. And why suddenly this is all the rage? And it appears that our good neighbor, Pakistan, is the one who started it all. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's defer this to General Ravi Shankar. Over to you, sir.
Oh, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. And good evening to everyone and the audience on Strategic Frontlines, Short and P Gurus. Do subscribe to all these three channels. We're going to give you something far out. This is a subject which not many people have discussed so far. All this came to the fore when, on that 60 Minutes program, Mr. Trump said he's going to restart testing. Restart testing by USA is a big thing, and that it's just that many people feel that Trump doesn't know what he's speaking about, and all that. And I don't think so. I think that is a very, 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 very measured information he's told everyone. It's a strategic communication which is put out to say, look, I'm going to start testing, and we know how others are testing. We're going to do the same thing. So it is in this context that the CTBT, everything becomes important. So what I'll do is I'll first put the whole thing in perspective, and then we can discuss it. Yeah, let's get the first slide up. You see, these are the latest stockpile of nuclear warheads with various countries. You'll see that these are in three levels. USA and Russia. They are in excess of 5,000. The next level is China. China has got, at this point of time, 600. Last year, it had just about 500. Over a year, they've put together 100 new warheads. And the rest are 200 plus minus. And with Pakistan and India at their par, with about 170 nuclear warheads. And North Korea has 50 warheads. These are estimates. They might be up and down a bit. That doesn't matter. But everyone knows Russia and USA have an excess of 5,000. They completely outweigh both all the rest of the world. That's the thing. Okay. If you went back to the 60s and 70s, the normal talk was about mutual assured destruction, nuclear attacks, this, that, and all that. The Cold War was all about nuclear assets and exchange of nuclear weapons between, when I said nuclear delivery between, USA and Russia. Right. In that context, it was towards the end of the last century that people start, put together something called CTBT. What is CTBT? It's a Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. Till then, a lot of countries were continuing their tests wherever they wanted to. China was doing it in Lopnor in Tibet. USA was doing it at a place in Nevada. France was doing it in, somewhere near Antarctica, South Pacific, Antarctica, somewhere there in one of their islands. It was quite regular. Now, CTBT came into place in 1996. The whole idea was to ban all nuclear explosions, both military and civilian, for all purposes. It is not only for military, even for civilian purposes. And then they put an international monitoring system in place through the CTBT. This is part of the nuclear disarmament talks, NPT, this, that, all that. I'll not go into the full thing. We can touch upon it later. Now, The key aspect of the CTBT is it prohibits all nuclear tests in all environments, like I said earlier. Right. It requires ratification by 44 states which are listed in the annexure of the treaty. Okay. And the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization operates a global monitoring system to detect any violations. But interesting, many states which have signed on the treaty have not ratified it. And who has not ratified it? The guys who own nuclear weapons have not ratified it. That's the important point. Just see, signed but not ratified: China, Egypt, Israel, Iran, Russia, and US. Baki the funders all signed on it. Then there are non-signatories like India, Pakistan, North Korea. They said, no, we're not going to do it. Why should we not test? We will continue testing. And when we are okay, we'll stop testing. I will talk of it. India and Pakistan did their last test together in 1998. The world put a lot of sanctions on them. And after that, virtually, they have also fallen into the CTBT. So the CTBT is an operative instrument at this point of time, though not ratified. Everyone has followed it, except India, Pakistan in 1998, and Korea. So North Korea. I'll touch upon it a little later. But there is, interestingly, there's something else which was there. It was called the Partial Test Ban Treaty. Okay, now why am I taking this Partial Test Ban Treaty? We'll discuss this. Because we might have to go back to this in some other form in the current environment. Now, this Partial Test Ban Treaty was put together in 1963. Now, what did it do? It prohibited nuclear weapon tests in the atmosphere. Okay, that is airburst tests, outer space, and underwater. Outer space is important in this. Today, everyone wants to militarize space, and we'll discuss this. CIRG, I think this is one thing which you should bring back into discussion. The fact that outer space testing, because the CTBT, of course, it says all environment, it doesn't specify space. It has implications. And then underwater, that's in seas. Outer space has implications because, and we'll discuss it a little later. I'll not jump the gun. The Partial Test Ban Treaty was put together by US, UK, and Soviet Union. UK those days was the dying superpower, so it still had a lot of say. And then third operative thing is the treaty allowed nuclear testing as long as it does not cause radioactive debris to enter the atmosphere. Okay. Now, if you look at this is a very important thing. This and its outer space is the thing which we probably have to start re-looking at now when you say people are going to violate the CTBT. Even in the new 98 tests, there was no radioactive debris which entered the atmosphere. These were underground nuclear tests in Pokhran. Okay. So, while we didn't go with the CTBT, we violated the CTBT, we stuck to the PTBT. That's the important thing. So we were not complete violators even then. Now, there's certain things why this has come into play. It's not as if Trump one fine day got up and said, oh, I've come to know that these chaps are carrying out tests. Pakistan, he's named Pakistan, North Korea, China, and USSR. And he says, right, it's not as if he's talking off the cuff. I fully believe he does, and I'll justify it now. China has been increasing its inventory. I said last year this same picture showed 500, today it's 600. And they want to go up to 1,000 nuclear weapons. So if you are producing nuclear weapons, you need to test them. That's a fundamental thing. and at that rate. North Korea is continuing to test. It's not bothered what it thing, but it conducted its last test in 2017. It's conducted 6 tests between 2006 and 17. Okay. Now, Russia has not violated the CTBT, but recently it fired a nuclear-powered cruise missile. Okay. Now, that's another way of saying I'm doing a nuclear test. Whatever is flying is susceptible. Okay. And then he revoked any form of ratification of the CTBT formally in 2013. He said, not 2013, 2033, 23, 2 years back. Sorry, the wrong thing. 2 years back, on the back of Ukraine war, he said, I'm not interested in ratifying the CTBT at all. Forget it. I'm not get involved in it. Pakistan needs an excuse to go ahead with it, because we know it's into nuclear proliferation, and it is also into, missile proliferation. It will leverage it politically to gain, it leverage within the Muslim world and convert this into Islamic bomb. So Pakistan just needs an excuse. The major issues which, people will argue is most inventories are of old design. These are all, megatons, kilotons and all. Do you need all that today? In the age of surgical strikes, do you need such heavy, old, hydrogen bombs which will destroy half the earth and do, mutual assured destruction? We don't want to go back there. So they'll say, yeah, we want new designs. If new designs means we will need to test and we will need miniaturized designs. That's what I said, miniaturization of components. I will probably use a 10 kiloton or I'll just probably use a 1 kiloton weapon. I'll use a clean weapon. In essence, Russia showed the precursor to this last year when they fired the Oshnik missile, right, in Ukraine. Okay. Then missile proliferation is rampant, missile testing is rampant. So if that is being carried on, so why should I not test nuclear warhead? After all, the missile is not going to take normal warheads. Iran wants to test. Give Iran a chance, it will test. And that whole story of Iran-Israel war is about testing. Okay, going nuclear is what testing. If Iran does a test, it's nuclear. And nations are testing on the slide. It has come from the President of the United States. So then the key question, there are enough reasons for people wanting to test. So, thanks a lot. This was the last slide. So in this context, the thing which comes into focus is also NPT. NPT is one other issue. Sorry, there's one more slide. Can you put it on back, please? I'll spend a minute more on the NPT. Now, the non-proliferation treaty, right? It was opened for signature in 1968. It came into force in 1970. And after 1995, it was indefinitely extended. It was primarily to prevent spread of nuclear weapons, use nuclear energy for peaceful methods, pursue nuclear disarmament, all that which I have written. The IAEA, International Atomic Energy Authority, has put in place a system by which complete verification of nuclear programs is done. As of 2015, 191 states have joined the 5 original nuclear weapon states. 5 original nuclear weapon states are China, France, Russia, UK, and India is not part of it. Pakistan is not part of it. Because we have not signed on the non-proliferation treaty, we are not considered a nuclear state officially in this parlance. And hence, China uses it as an excuse to ensure you don't get an entry into the NSG, the nuclear surprise group, and the Wassenaar group, so that you don't get fissile material. Okay. So there is an issue. Like I said, 4 states, India, Israel, Pakistan, and North Korea, have not signed the treaty. Yeah, thank you. That's it. So the moment you start talking of say, changing the CTBT, or you do testing or violating the CTBT, the NPT issues also will come in. Part of that is new missile proliferation. So there's a whole, it's like opening a can of worms. And then people will say, let's go to PTBT modified. So these are the options we can discuss. India has to take a call and which way it wants to go, because we have a doctrine which is outdated, right? It is not consistent with the times. So we have a lot of thinking to do. It has to do with a lot of other issues. I thought I'll put this across to give a background as to where we are, and then we can discuss this.
Thank
Back
you
to
so much,
you.
General Ravi Shankar. Thank you so much, sir. General Dushyant, your initial comments, and then I'll go to General Harimohan Singh. Before that, viewers, wherever you're watching, please like this video. It's coming live to you, like General Ravi Shankar said, strategic front lines, gunner shot, and P Gurus. Wherever you are watching it, please like this video. We need to have a lot more people watching it. It's very important because this is suddenly out of nowhere it has come out, and we need to understand what exactly are the implications. How many people have the thing? How many are sniffing? How many are testing? Whatever. Over to you, General Dushyant Singh.
Thank you, Ayerji, for uh, again inviting me, and also apologies to the viewers because I was not well for a few weeks, I would say. Hopefully, I am on the recovery way. First of all, since the entire background has already been given by Jan Shankar, I will not focus on them. What I will do is I will pick up certain issues which we need to consider. First of all, why has this issue come up in by and why has this issue been raised by Trump? It's not all of a sudden raising of the issue. If you look at the July 2024 Foreign Affairs magazine, in which Robert O'Brien, the national security advisor of Trump, has said that the lab testing of nuclear systems is not adequate, it is not enough. So therefore, there is a need for a full testing or full yield testing of nuclear weapons. So the work is going on from 2024 to somehow create that kind of a I would say, I won't say narrative, but that kind of a an idea into the system that there is a need to reopen this whole things. And that is why you found the Russians also responding by way of firing that Oshnik missile, which General Shankar mentioned about it. So first issue is the intent. Intent is not new. It has been there from the past. The second thing, as far as the US is concerned, they have two interests, and specifically POTUS. First is that, MAGA plays very heavily in his mind. Now, if MAGA plays very heavily in the mind, security is one issue which will give him that heft to swing views from what is now emerging in United States of America, of people going to the center left, etc. You would have seen this in the results of the mayoral elections which took place in New York, etc. So this statement came just before that. So I think we need to link that also. He was trying in a last minute attempt to swing the voters in favor of the other candidates who were representing the MAGA thing. So that is a second factor, I think, which we need to take into account. The third factor, which I feel maybe that there are certain things which were happening in form of tests. See, subcritical tests are already being done in the United States and other countries who are part of the nuclear so-called elite group of 8 nations. But again, I think everybody is feeling the need that there is a need for some tests which are somewhere near full yield. Maybe not the big ones, but at least 5 kT, 10 kT, that kind of a test. Now there were some tremors, etc., seen both in Pakistan and in the general areas there. So maybe this has given rise to some kind of rumor that yes, Pakistan is probably doing these tests. Maybe the United States has some inside information about these tests being done. In fact, I was interacting with some people a few days back, and they told me that there was also some kind of a cloud formation. I don't know whether a cloud formation can take place in a sub underground testing, whether it is feasible or not. I asked some people, they said that in case if the underground testing is not of a particular depth, then there could be a cloud formation of this kind taking place even in the atmosphere. So even if all these things are possibly being observed by people, I think there are countries like Pakistan which may be quietly indulging in it. What is the intent of Pakistan? That everybody knows. It is trying to create some kind of a regional uh, strategic communication vis-a-vis India to ensure that it retains its so-called security of the country, so that the Pakistan is also not to be scot-free. We should not go by the statement which they have made that no, the allegations of Trump are all baseless. Probably they are both hand in glove with each other for the last few months in doing this kind of an activity. There is no proof for it. It's just a conspiracy theory, if you want to say. But a number of people have actually pointed to this particular factor. Then the next issue which I wanted to highlight here was that what is the rationale for undertaking these tests now afresh? Has it also got something to do with the Russia Ukraine war, that this kind of a strategic signaling is going as far as the nuclear domain is concerned between Russia and the United States of America in a different format? This is the Cuban crisis was more about deployments, shifting a few kilometers closer to the to each other, etc., etc. But here, the kind of signaling which is going on between Russia and Ukraine, Russia and United States of America, may also be one of the reasons why this thing has come about suddenly. The next issue which I want to highlight here is about Trump. I find that Trump believes in disruptions. So he has already disrupted the world as far as trade is concerned. The world is still reeling under its impact, and from there, possibly he's trying to gain maximum advantage for America. Fine, I mean that's any country would like to do that, but the way he's been doing it is, I think it's not. I would say it's not a desirable way to do that thing. The second thing is about the nuclear issue. Now, through nuclear raising of this nuclear saber rattling, I would put it that way only. Maybe he's trying to create a new order within the nuclear states. Are people going to go in for race of testing, or is there going to be some kind of an agreement which might take place, wherein all the countries which are supposedly nuclear countries, including India and Pakistan, Israel, etc., uh, getting into some kind of an agreement where everybody agrees to each other? You see, UN General Assembly had a vote very recently in which the lone dissenter was America. Again, this is much before what has happened. So what I'm trying to say is that there is a method in madness in which in which Trump is trying to move ahead as far as the next big issue which can shake the entire world. Trade has shaken the world. It is now the nuclear issue which is trying to shake the world. And again, on the lighter side, is it also ultimately linked to his Nobel Peace Prize and ambitions, where he manages to get the nuclear nations to agree to a treaty which is signed by everyone who is every country which is actually a nuclear country, and also secure the future of this great world and the great earth continent. Maybe I thought I should mention this thing just to lighten up the environment of seriousness, but there may be a truth in this. I mean, if you look at it from a little more deeper point of view, as far as the Russians are concerned, I think Putin is something which we should not, Trump should not play very, very lightly with him, because he was the first one to say the statement on November 5th that, look, we will carry out the test. Even the Chinese have not said that they're going to carry out the test. They're just saying that, okay, this is absolutely incorrect, false, baseless. People should move back to NPT, etc. But Putin has said we will start preparing for a preemptive testing, and he's capable of doing it. His I think one of his ministers, I'm forgetting his name, he's also come out and stated that time now for making preemptive preparations for nuclear testing. So I hope we are not going to see a testing race between the two superpowers, wherein the others start doing that, knee jerk reaction, and spoiling the whole stability which was there in the nuclear domain. Till now, we used to say that nuclear weapons are not weapons of war. They are meant to hold, I mean, they are meant to actually ensure peace. I hope he's not disturbing that. So these are my initial comments. I think we can keep on going as the issues get raised related to specifically to NPT or CTBT or partial nuclear ban treaty. I'll stop here.
Thank you so much, sir. General Harimohan Iyer.
Yeah. Good evening. I'll take it forward from where General Dushyant left. I look at Trump taking on two major things. One was the WTO, and the second is nuclear testing. By putting this tariff war, he is literally, off-railed the entire WTO process. So free market economy is going to take a hit because every nation will think 10 times before getting into those kind of treaties. All these FTAs, I don't know whether they're going to hold ground. These are some things the future has to tell us. So even before that storm set in, he's raised the new one called nuclear testing. Now I have some pointers from whatever General Shankar had written. So I had noted down some things. Firstly, if you had realized in the partial test ban treaty, France wasn't there. China was not yet a nuclear power in '63, but France was. But France did not sign the PTBT because France had just started its nuclear, race. It did not want to be, cowed down at that stage, so it did not sign. And that is why you find certain elements of PTBT was left vague because France was part of the larger Western alliance in the Europe. So France was allowed to carry out its testing despite the PTBT being in place. That was one issue. The second thing is issue of CTBT. Why India did not sign? When India could have very much signed and ratified it after completing the tests in '98. But we objected to the aspect of NPT being linked with it, where the issue of nuclear weapon state was very clearly specified as the haves and the have-nots. There was no clear indication as to whether post signing of such a treaty, India will be recognized as a state which has nuclear weapons. Even now, we do not form part of the NWS. We are called as states with nuclear weapons and not nuclear weapon states. So to that effect, CTBT in my mind was a method to try and get those four rogue states of that time, that is India, Pakistan, Israel and North Korea, to come under the ambit of NPT. Because had India and these three states signed the CTBT, we would have willy-nilly accepted the provisions of NPT and thereby had to give up our nuclear arsenal. So that is a major problem with the CTBT as it stands today, because that ambiguity still stays. The third issue is issue of testing. It's been 3 decades since a major test has been done by the superpowers. When I say major test, of course, subcritical tests, computer simulation is happening as General Dushyant and General Shankar brought out. But in last 30 years, I'm sure technology is also changing. The nuclear weapon, as one saw, which Oppenheimer built before the World War, has undergone a huge amount of change in the next 30, 40 years. And thereafter, it became part of a missile-based delivery system. In today's world, when we are graduating to much smaller and longer range missiles with multiple capacities and capabilities, there is possibly a need to review the methodology of nuclear weapons. Could be a new technology, a new main. You never know how things are going to be looked at. So, in that aspect, if nuclear testing resumes, it will be based on trying to find out better methods to carry out the same amount of destruction with the same kind of a weapon yield. It could also end up in diversifying the assets. So suddenly 5,500 can well become 10,000 or 11,000 by transferring that into smaller warheads, giving the same kind of yield. So for that kind of a situation, you need to carry out testing. And that is possibly something which both Russia and America wants. If you recollect the so-called START treaties, etc., which came about in the 70s, the nuclear stockpile was reduced considerably from what it was there with the Soviet Union and the Americans in the 70s. Over a period of time, it has settled to the figure of around 5,000, 5,500 odd weapons, as General Shankar pointed out. At the same time, the UK and France has also stabilized at around 250, 280 weapons. China, which was around the same numbers about a decade ago, has gone up to about 600. India and Pakistan, in the last 2.5 decades, has managed to have around 200 odd weapons. So it is not easy to just suddenly start stockpiling weapons because it amounts to production of enriched uranium, which has its own dynamics. And therefore, there would be a need to look at other methods to try and achieve the same kind of results. So possibly testing is another reason why all these nations want to do. Another aspect which I'd like to highlight is this international monitoring stations, which General Shankar mentioned in the passing. They are well in place and they can pick up even the smallest of tests that anybody can do. Every test which North Korea did in the period between 2008 and 17 has been picked up. So therefore, today's world, you just cannot hide a nuclear test. And if CTBT is not ratified and enforced, there is no reason why any nation should stop testing. If CTBT is still in the current form where it is not ratified, it cannot be called entered into force, people cannot be held to account for violating this treaty, why should nations not continue their testing? So that is something which needs to be looked at. Next issue, of course, is MAGA. America became very great post the World War because they were the ones which pioneered the race for nuclear weapons. Even now, when you talk about it, one of the most successful movies in the last couple of years has been Oppenheimer. They like to flaunt that they were the ones who created this weapon of destruction and used it also. They are the only nation which has actually used it. And they have been able to end a war. So to say that they want to continue being the leader in this race, for them, it is a major issue. So if America starts testing again, I won't be surprised because it is a major element to count towards make America great again. As far as I am concerned, I am worried about something which I call as testing mules. Now, testing mules can be rogue nations, which can possibly be coverts to carry out tests should there be a reason when testing is the CTBT comes into force. So therefore, for a treaty of this nature, we have to ensure that the treaty encompasses every nation that is capable of carrying out tests, otherwise it's got no value. Another issue which I would like to highlight in my opening statement is that the NPT was extended indefinitely in 1995. I believe it comes for a review in 2026. Will the new form of NPT include all 8 nuclear weapon states as it stands today? Or are we going to continue, in fact 9 nuclear weapon states, I'm sorry, I forgot North Korea. So will they accept all these 9 states as nuclear weapon states and thereafter push a proper NPT in place? Because nuclear proliferation is a major problem. Today, a rogue state with nuclear weapons can be a very, very dangerous preposition. They are still worried that should a nuclear weapon fall into the hands of any terrorists or people like the Taliban, it can be, proliferated across. There are evidences where people have shared nuclear related technology despite it being banned. Pakistan is a live example. Its entire nuclear program is based on stolen technology, and everybody knows about it. So tomorrow, why is it not possible that another Pakistan comes about tomorrow and comes about in a manner that it cannot be controlled? And in that count, I feel this could be the time when there needs to be someone who needs to catch hold of this CTBT once again, review it, possibly look at those areas which are unlikely to be accepted by those 8 states which are not signed, and try and bring it together before this wholesome new testing race starts. Because if just one of these guys starts testing, thereafter there is no stopping, and there's no be once again a mass run towards nuclear tests. And like General Shankar said, and I'm sure we're going to discuss again, we need not possibly stay underground. For all you know, they'll go into space, and that is going to bring catastrophe to the world and the universe as we look at it. So to that aspect, I think one more issue is subcritical tests and simulation. Data which has been collected from tests were being used to carry out simulation and check whether the weapons are serviceable or not. Some amount of subcritical level tests were done, and thereafter the yield was being extrapolated based on the data received. Is it adequate? These are questions. The second issue which I'd like to finally add here is we may have carried out a kind of moratorium as far as nuclear testing is concerned. But testing of the launch vehicles hasn't stopped. So every year you find new and new technologies coming in. The Russians have just demonstrated one. Right now we are looking at hypersonic missiles coming in, which possibly may not be even detectable by a nation which is being targeted on. Will it carry nuclear weapons? And what happens if it does carry nuclear weapons? So is just a test ban treaty adequate, or are we looking at some kind of restrictions as far as testing the nuclear carrying vehicles are concerned? That's another thing which needs to be analyzed. The last issue I'd like to say before I stop, this saber rattling thing has become a very common statement. It's very easy to say, Pakistan says, if India tries X, Y, Z, and we will respond with our nuclear weapons. That kind of saber rattling is not a problem area, because we know they can't use it. But if somebody starts mobilizing his nuclear force, somebody starts testing its nuclear launch vehicles, somebody starts mating its nuclear weapons with its launch vehicles, well, that kind of signaling is serious. And to that extent, some of the activities which Russia has done over the last couple of months has possibly tilted towards the current kind of situation which Trump has narrated. That having said, I believe by and large, what is coming out of the USA is that they are only testing delivery vehicles and not necessarily nuclear weapons. But that is something for us to examine in the future. I think I'll stop here and we can continue with the discussion.
Thank you so much, General Harimohan Iyer. General Shankar, this whole thing started when I think Pakistan said that it's going to start testing its nuclear stuff again. Tell us a little bit about the reality of the state of nuclear storage technology that exists in Pakistan. There are 2 agencies that claim to be doing work, the Khan Research Laboratories as well as the PAEC, I think, Pakistani Atomic Energy something. A little bit about reality check of what Pakistan is trying to say. Is it trying to stay relevant?
Look, I'll tackle Pakistan since you asked me a question, but the larger issue is testing. We need to understand that, because it's quite complicated. Trump has just opened a can of worms already. See, Pakistan's nuclear weapons are quite safe. I'm very clear about it. I'll tell you why. Because nuclear weapons in Pakistan guarantees the existence of Pakistan. It guarantees continued aid to Pakistan. It guarantees Pakistan army being in control of the situation and running the state. If anything happens in that, these three things will go for Pakistan. Pakistan is using nuclear weapons as a lever, and to get its benefits to continue to exist as a state, and to ensure that the Pakistan army chief, if he becomes a dictator tomorrow, no one says no to it. Period. We are almost, many times we feel that jihadis will enter here. Some might happen, but I don't think the Pakistani generals are fools to let that happen. Right? It affects their bank balances. Please remember that, and their future. So, Pakistan might want to test more because it gives them more power. Okay, and this is derives from the Chinese thinking. Xi Jinping is of the firm opinion that nuclear weapons give him more political power. And that is why he is increasing from 500 to 1,000. So Pakistan also would like to do it. But Pakistan has other constraints. But its weapons, it will not let go. A lot of news coming out, Pakistan weapons were in control of USA, all that. I don't agree with it. We then underestimate these greedy buffoons called the Pakistani generals. They will never put their future in the hands of America. They know each other very well. Yeah, certain aspects they would have probably compromised, but the core issues, no. I don't think it'll, I'm not worried about the safety and security of the nuclear weapons. And if you see Rashid Kidwai, who's supposed to be the father of their nuclear, thing, you see the statements he comes out with. It's not a ird-gird statement, I say Bewkoof ka. But about Napituli, he comes out with absolutely measured statements on every turn. So we leave Pakistan out. Let me get back to this business of testing versus not testing. If one country starts testing officially, right, it will lead to an arms race all over again. Right? There's no doubt. Let's not have doubts. Everyone will start testing. It's just, it needs one person to test, everyone will test. The moment testing starts, proliferation starts. These are all, down the line, dominoes which will fall. The moment proliferation starts, nuclear ambiguity will come in. You don't know whether that fellow is going to have a nuclear warhead or not. So your wars are going to become even more dicey than what they are. Understand the implication of testing. The moment one chap tests in this world, be rest assured India will have to test. Okay. But on the other hand, testing is required. Let me argue the testing is required. Do you need this 700, 1000 kiloton or 10 megaton kind of warhead still hanging around? You don't need. So if you don't need those, you might as well dismantle them. You dismantle them and those chaps can reassemble better miniaturized warheads which have lesser destructive capability, and which can be used targeted. When I'm talking from a practical viewpoint, that's how one needs to think. But if you have to do that, you have to test. So both sides of the argument are valid today at this point of time. Right, one. Number two, today every country is going in for nuclear energy. Every country. Now, if every country is going for nuclear energy, One of the ingredients or the effluents of a nuclear system is fissile material, depleted uranium. Depleted uranium you use in armor, but otherwise the byproducts of any reactor is fissile material. And if that is under complete safeguards, international monitoring, all that, fine, you will not get. But countries will get around it, like Pakistan did, and they'll produce fissile material. So the moment you have fissile material, you are bound. You will have to make a bomb. Will you like to make a bomb tomorrow with old design or new design? If it is new design, I bet the Chinese are doing it, and I bet they're carrying out something more than normal tests somewhere. They've got Gobi Desert to do it. They've got Tibet to do it. It is not mainland Han China. And of course, they'll hide it underground, all that. So the business of thrust towards nuclear energy is itself a problem for us. Then the issue of space. Everyone wants now, you talk to the normal idiot on the street or on X or, wherever, he says, I want space-based weapons. What if someone puts a nuke in space and the nuke goes off in space? Your complete communications, GPS, PPS, everything will go hot. One explosion in space is out. What I find alarming is that the Chinese, the idiots they're thinking of using nuclear force in space. They said they'll control it. I don't know how they'll control it. There is no way you can control nuclear explosion in space. A nuclear explosion in space is the worst which can happen in today's advanced world. Because the kind of nuclear debris which will be formed, and the debris will knock out any satellite, yours, mine, everyone's, and there'll be catastrophe. Who controls that? Okay. Now, if you see the entire nuclear organizations, international organizations, and the structure, everything, was brought into force when USA wanted its peak. You're talking of CTBT 96. Unipolar time. USA could put it through. Even then, people didn't ratify it. CTBT-O was put together when USA had that. Today, no one has that power. It's nice to say, I have to do this, not do this, but who will do it? So, if one has to read, smell the tea leaves, we are going into a situation where willy-nilly some fellow will start testing, and the existing organization is not capable of putting any ban on it or controlling it. Who will what sanctions? US sanctions we've seen. China doesn't have any capability to sanction. Rare earth raklo. Very simple. If someone says something to me, you don't give me rare earths, okay, keep your rare earths. I'll produce nukes and I'll point them at China and do nuclear blackmail and I'll get it out. It doesn't matter whether he has 1,000 nuclear warheads or not. But that's what Pakistan is doing, nuclear blackmail. That's what China itself is doing to USA. So, the moment testing happens, there is going to be a domino effect and there is going to be a problem. Okay, so that's one. The next point which one has to understand, this business of Putin and Russia testing a nuclear-powered cruise missile is hugely dangerous. And I'll tell you why. What is a propulsion system? It's a mini reactor. So you're letting a mini reactor go, which is propelling this missile wherever it is going. What if the missile doesn't go to full range? If it doesn't go to full range, there is still residual nuclear energy in that propulsion system. which means that's a nuclear warhead. You land it anywhere, it's a nuclear warhead. We need to understand the implications of that nuclear missile. Some of the people who come in YouTube ask me this glib question. This YouTube watchers. Sir, when are we going to have our own nuclear powered, cruise missile? भाई ये जिलेबी का technology थोड़ी ना है. So there are very serious issues in this business of propelling cruise missiles with nuclear technology. In fact, in my way of understanding things, that's already a test carried out. It's a test of a warhead, a new design of a warhead. I have a nuclear-powered cruise missile which can go to 1,000 kilometers, but I fire it at 100 kilometers and put it down in enemy city. 900 kilometers worth of nuclear capability, it still has to go over the city. This is dangerous. We are already in that gray zone, in nuclear gray zone. What about nuclear subs? Everyone wants nuclear subs. We know that the nuclear sub went down in Wuhan, in China, last year. I think August 24 or March 24. It just sank. It came out in Wall Street Journal. What happens to that reactor and what's there? So when you do all this attempt CTBT, A, BT, all that, what do you do about those propulsion systems? So the larger issues are there. And in this kind of fragmented political thing, where everyone is fighting with each other. Look at the big states which have nuclear capability. They're all at war with each other today. US, Russia, US, China, China, India, Pakistan with someone else. France and UK with Russia in some form. So in such a case, where is the future for a CTBT or something like that? So the question then comes is, are we getting into nuclear chaos? This one innocent talk by Trump or under par talk by Trump sentence has a huge dragon behind or an elephant behind. So we need to think, India needs to think. And what I'm absolutely amazed and completely disappointed is that the way we are thinking. I'm being very honest about it. Our strategic community is not thinking its way through. And I think our political system has to be apprised of this. I hope someone in the political firmament sees this discussion between three of us. I have not seen anywhere in YouTube or even in written the implications of what Trump has said. So these are my views. I'm sorry I've taken a little more time because I spent a lot of time thinking about it. And these are the issues which came up. Back to you.
General Dushyant, let's move into this round, and then after that we'll take some questions. General Dushyant, you are muted, sir. Go ahead and weigh in on this.
Two quick comments, because most of the issues have been covered by Gen Shankar. The first one is about testing. Now, in the testing, what I feel, especially in an India-Pakistan scenario, where Pakistan might get tempted to do a test, is in the tactical nuclear weapon, especially the Nasser weapon. You see, what has happened is Nasser has a different shape. It's not an oval shape. It's a horizontal shape thing. It has not been tested in the past, so it might just get tempted to do it now. So we have to keep a watch on that. That is very important as far as we are concerned, because that will have then implications like what should be our policy, how should we be structuring our doctrine. It's not about the number of number of nuclear weapons which we hold. It's about how do we use them, what is our intent to use them. That is very important. The second thing which General Shankar tried to highlight in the end, of course, was about the strategic communities. Brain hemorrhage is the right word which I would like to use. Is that, whenever we have had this deliberations, whether at the level inside or level outside, they are struck with this whole idea that as far as we are concerned, whether it is our northern adversary or whether it is our western adversary, I think we are sitting pretty and fine.
We are
That's
not.
that's sitting pretty and fine, that everything has been now put into place. We have systems which will actually be able to counter what might come against us, or what we should deny the adversary from doing it. After all, the strategic brilliance lies in forcing the enemy not to use the nuclear weapon. That should be the approach which we should have, and not the fact that we would be able to survive A, B, C, D, and then do a massive retaliation. That those issues are good from a psychological perspective. Will the Pakistanis believe it? Will the Chinese act upon it? I think those are two, three issues which we need to consider, re-debate, rekindle our minds, and look at something which is a little better as far as the doctrine is concerned. Is absolutely right. People are not thinking on those lines. They are thinking, they're coming with this idea of having a discussion. But unfortunately, after the discussion, the view is status quo, let's maintain it, perfect, fine, running, tiki tiki boo. That's the line which I would like to end with. And the third issue which I would like to highlight here is that, okay, Trump has opened a can of worms. He has created this seed inside the strategic minds of various nuclear power countries, that testing is required. And he, like I said, he was building upon it from last 1 year through his NSA, etc. It is not something that he has just taken out of his bag, a new rabbit, and and thrown into the environment. No, this rabbit was being prepared well, and then finally it has been unleashed to the people who are concerned with. There is an opportunity. I believe in that Chinese philosophy of Weiqi, where anything which happens, don't look at it with an adverse point of view. Look at it from a positive point of view. What can India extract out of it? Now, India can extract a lot out of US. India can extract a lot out of China in this whole new dynamics of nuclear nuclear weapons is concerned. What can we extract out of China? Whole lot of things, border talks, uh, supporting the supporting the view that there should be no CTBT done, etc. So there are these things which we can actually look at and extract our border settlement on a favorable terms. Similarly, there are other issues which we can actually extract out of this. With the US, if they are very keen, can we have a variable policy whereby the US is also okay that India is towing the line, and get our ISET, get our technological requirements, especially high tech requirements, met from the US. I know US itself is under a stress. They are not able to make their own aircraft, number of aircraft. They are not able to actually manufacture their ammunition itself for the artillery. They have their own problems, but they have the technology. What is important for us is technology. If we get the technology, we have the capabilities to scale it up and use it for our purposes. So with this, I'll stop here, since it's the second round. We should be giving chance to the other also. Over to you, Sri Ayerji.
Thank you so much, General Harimohan Iyer.
Couple of issues. Firstly, the Pakistani nukes are under the army control, unlike the other nuclear weapon states. So that needs to be flagged. So they have the control whether they use it in the tactical battlefield or otherwise, and that is something which needs to be flagged. Secondly, I feel Pak delivery beams, these are suspect. So whether he's going to use all those long-range vectors with the nuclear weapons, can he use, Or is his nuclear weapons adequately having the adequate technology to be mated into those? These are issues which I don't feel he has the capability, but then it needs to be monitored. I have a little worry, everybody talks about, at least every time we have a session on Pakistan, one of the next question is, when is Pakistan going to implode? So, and it's not something which comes out of the blue. There are problems along almost every state other than Punjab. Even within Punjab, South Punjab and North Punjab, there is problems. So in that kind of a scenario with a huge amount of nuclear stockpile, is it something we should be worried about? Is something India as a nation, and especially the strategic thinkers, have to put their heads a little more seriously, like Gen Dushyant says. Word was brought about space. My biggest worry with space is a space launch vehicle with a nuclear weapon on board. How do we decipher that it is destined for the space and not going to have a intercontinental trajectory? How does, let's say tomorrow, the Americans send a weapon or Chinese send a weapon to space through a launch vehicle? How is it that the others who are likely to be threatened by it are not going to construe it as a nuclear weapon launch? And I'm saying this because, there's a wonderful movie which is being screened on Netflix. And I actually recommend maximum people to see. It's called House of Dynamite, where an odd weapon be launched by North Korea creates supposedly a nuclear response, and supposedly it's supposed to bring end to the world. So is one weapon adequate to spoil the entire existence of this world? This is something we need to look at. In that context, space-based nuclear weapon is a major worry, and that's something we need to flag. Something should be again flagged in the similar manner is when Iran and Israel were at loggerheads, and Iran launched that volley of missiles and drones at Israel, which went over at least 4 countries and met with its so-called targets inside Israel. How do we decipher that they are all carrying conventional warheads? What is the method to segregate the nuclear launch missiles with a normal missile? Same is the problem with Russia. They are launching long-range vectors all over. Even the Americans are now giving long-range vectors to Ukrainians, which are going to be targeting deep into Russia. So these are areas where one can be a little worried whether a normal launch missile is taken as a nuclear warhead and a response happens. And therefore, testing actually adds more spice to this kind of an argument, because the moment you start testing, you are showing your intention to use a nuclear weapon, because that is what nuclear signaling is. And the last thing which I am worried is, today what one has seen is a weapon being delivered by an aircraft, or by a missile launched through submarines or from land. What happens if tomorrow drones, especially swarms of drones, carry small nuclear warheads and begin to become a new kind of threat? Because while a missile can be picked up, a drone is a very small body, and it's very difficult to identify a drone being launched, where it has been launched from, where it is heading. These are very difficult prospects, especially kind of drones which the superpowers are having, which have huge number of endurance, capability to carrying missiles on board. Is it a possibility to have miniaturized nuclear missiles which can be launched through these drones? In that context, every drone that is in the air will become suspect. And therefore, we are in for real testing time. The only thing that was actually keeping the tempers cool was the moratorium by all these states that we will not test nuclear weapons. And it stood for almost 30 years. Like General Shankar brought out, 1998 was the last known test by one of these nations other than North Korea. North Korea, of course, tested in this millennium. But 30 years, this so-called moratorium, which followed the CTBT, stayed. The Americans haven't tested a weapon for 33 years. The Russians have possibly tested even earlier than that. So therefore, should they start testing again, will it be restricted to underground tests only? Or will somebody say, no, we will also look at exothermic tests. We'll also look at possibly out of space tests. So these are areas which are likely to become a major problem area should tests start again. And like General Shankar says, if America tests, should we start testing immediately? These are question marks. If Pakistan tests, definitely we'll have to test. There is no two ways about it. If China tests, definitely we'll have to test. There is no two ways about it. But should we start testing just because Americans have started testing? These are questions. Will the leadership agree to it? Because while America will not be sanctioned, India will definitely get sanctioned if they get into testing mode. India is surviving. We had a degree of sanctions which lasted about 6-7 years, which had a toll on us. And General Shankar is also aware of it because large number of our procurements got stalled because of those sanctions. It was not that everything was hunky-dory. It is only after 2007-8 when things became, if I recollect correctly, either George Bush came to India and that so-called nuclear treaty started. Nuclear deal started coming up.
Civil nuclear deal, yeah.
Sanctions started, getting watered down. And it took another 6 years by the time we started getting those technologies that were denied to us. We all know that the moment we started creating a system of nuclear testing, rocket technology was denied to us. So we were making our own rocket engine. It has put our rocket technology back by almost 2 decades. So there is always a pay to whatever we do, and there will be a penalty to it. Are we ready for it just because America starts testing? Are we going to take Trump's word that Pakistan has already begun testing and start testing now? Because is it necessary? These are questions we need to understand. Are we going to test just because somebody is testing, or do we have something that needs to be tested? I don't know, because I don't know whether we are looking at miniaturized nukes, whether we are in the kind of capability to manufacture and mate miniaturized nukes to our delivery means. So therefore, this is a very open question, and just like General Dushyant says, it's a can of worms which Trump has opened. Whether I have a difference of opinion with General Shankar here, maybe he is let a little gone over the top by making that statement. It has to be maybe a calibrated one. Maybe it deals with subcritical tests only. And this is only time will tell whether it graduates from subcritical to proper testing or not. And I look at interesting times ahead. And I hope, like General Dushyant and General Shankar says, our strategic leadership is active at this stage, because we will not get time to start thinking once this thing starts, because the dominoes will roll very fast, and we should not be caught off guard. And therefore, this is a topic which I feel needs to be kept alive, and large number of people should start discussing the implications thereon. And we should be prepared with all our possible fallouts that we may encounter should we get into this nuclear race once again. Like somebody like General Dushyant said, it is easy to say we have adequate to take care of our western and northern neighbor, but I don't think so. Because when the race starts, then you will be possibly forced to look at new numbers. And those new numbers will come with a huge amount of pay. So we have to work on it, and I hope people are discussing this, and that's why I felt we should discuss this topic. And I hope this is just first of many discussions on this, maybe because there will be large number of implications, and 1 hour is not adequate to discuss this entire topic in its entirety. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. We have a few questions. I'm going to try and see if we can go through these things quickly. General Shankar, the first question is to you. Amitesh wants to know, China has achieved the milestone of thorium to uranium based reactor. Instead of having very huge amount of thorium, why can't we do that?
Yeah, Amitesh, you ask such questions only. Completely negative question, I must tell you. I'm telling this to you now in this channel also. First, read what China is doing. China is doing an experimental reactor.
We have already got one.
Huh?
We are way ahead there.
It's an experimental reactor. It's an experimental molten salt reactor. We have a 3-stage program, which is not based on a molten salt reactor. Our story is completely different. Our timelines are different. And we are going as per timelines. The question, gentlemen, please, when you ask a question, थोड़ा सोच समझ के बात करो. This entire business of science, technology, and nuclear physics, is not a competition between India and China. It's not a GDP comparison. There's much more. Okay, chalo.
Thank you, sir. Next question from Ashish Hegde for Dushyant Singh. Sir, for credible second strike capability, how many nuclear warheads and what should be the ideal yield and are our delivery systems good till 2035?
Okay, so as far as ideal numbers are concerned, you cannot pinpoint a number. First of all, it's all about survivability and having the capability to respond as per your doctrine. Our doctrine is of massive retaliation, so therefore we need to first survive and then retaliate. So for that we have the necessary delivery resilience as far as India is concerned, and we also have the necessary weapons quote weapons quantum, if you want to know about it, to do that against our Western adversary, as also uh, given the policy of minimum deterrence, we have it against the Chinese. But this is just a thing which has been worked out based on the situations which were existing earlier. As the time is going by, I think situations are changing, numbers are changing, so therefore we need to do a realistic assessment, and it cannot be done in a YouTube program like this. It needs a lot of classified information which is there, which needs to be discussed, and then a proper plan worked out, a doctrine worked out. So I'll leave it at that. I think this should satisfy you.
Next question, this is for General Harimohan Iyer. USA, Russia, PRC do nuclear tests, then should India utilize the opportunity to rectify our under-testing results in 1998 Pokhran tests as called out by Dr. Raja Ramana and Professor Bharat Karnad?
This is something which I think I ended my session with. So just because Russia and America test, do we start testing? Yes, it's an opportunity, but that opportunity will come with a penalty. While the Russians and Americans will test, they will call themselves as nuclear weapon states, and they will bring those issues that they are the only ones entitled to test. So if you carry out tests, be prepared for some kind of a retaliation in terms of both economic and isolated penalties. We will face a degree of isolation. As far as the Pokhran tests are concerned, I will not give too much of credibility to people who are speculating what were the results. I go by this thing given by the government that all our tests have achieved the kind of results that we were expecting. Whether the fifth test was produced that kind of yield, there are too many speculative discussions in the media, and I will not give too much of credit to it. Though both these gentlemen are very learned individuals, but then we should all follow what the government has given, and large number of discussions have happened on it. Whether we need to recalibrate it, this is a question which the government will take, and I'm sure, and it will not happen just off the cuff. If you have to test, it requires a huge amount of preparation. It will require a huge amount of strategic thought, and what kind of tests you want to do, and then only you will get into test. It's not that just because America tested today, tomorrow you'll go to Pokhran and start doing nuclear tests. It's not an exercise in Pokhran. It takes a large amount of deliberation and a large amount of preparation. Just for information, for the 98 tests, we had prepared way back in the 80s, and those tunnels were constructed well before even Narasimha Rao took over as the Prime Minister. So it takes time, and I'm sure the government will be aware of what's to be done.
General Shankar, you wanted to weigh in, sir?
Yeah, people talk of under testing in 98. Yeah, that's 27 years back. A lot of technology has changed from then to now. Okay, you have validated so many things. And okay, look at it from another point of view. Okay, 5 tests were done, 1 fizzled out. So what if your 4 tests were successful? Okay, even 3 tests were, let's say 3 tests were also not successful. 2 tests were successful. But those 2 can put nuclear tips, warheads you can make. So don't get carried away by what people say. The practicality on ground is far different from what it is. And 25 years, 27 years, this technology has changed. And we have adequate technology to handle all this. Don't worry.
Next question again to General Shankar. Manov San wants to know, in case Trump resumes testing, shouldn't India keep its own machinery ready to follow suit? Would any Pokhran 3 from us be thermonuclear? Would Pakistan be capable of a thermonuclear test?
Yeah, look, again, what the test should be, not be, and all, let the government decide. We are not interested. The most foolish thing is to do a thermonuclear test because that's what we want to get out of. If you have to do thermonuclear test, you don't have to do thermonuclear test. What you need to do is use miniature warheads, small warheads, like small reactors. You have to change. If you have to do testing, you have to do testing of modern warheads, low yield warheads, low yield, high effect. Like what I think Hari said, drones. Who said drones? Hari or yeah, drones. Can I put a warhead on a drone? That's scary. I would like that technology rather than one big blast. That big bang will not come. So we have to think differently. That's why I said spent a lot of time in saying why are people wanting to test? You don't need that huge inventory anymore. Okay.
Next question for General Dushyant Singh. Does Indian Strategic Organization has any institutional doctrine to protect our nuclear scientists and not to have failures happen, as in the case of Dr. Homi Bhabha and others?
Okay, as far as the doctrines are concerned, these are not, such actions are not given out in doctrines, but there are necessary measures and means in place to ensure their security. I think we leave it at that. There are very detailed instructions on these, both inside as well as outside.
General Harimohan Iyer, this is for you, sir. Will all the countries having PI, PL and UR, plutonium and uranium, start testing nuclear weapons with or without the CTBT treaty? Your views, sirs.
Firstly, the CTBT is not binding. It is not entered into force. So what is sticking today is a voluntary moratorium, which all seven of the eight nuclear weapon states are following. The only one which has violated it has been North Korea. And this is the status which has been there for the last 2.5 decades. That's what I said. After India tested in 98, the only country to test has been North Korea. So to that extent, CTBT has got no value today. I am looking at possibly this is an opportunity to bring back CTBT. If we have to control the kind of nuclear warheads, like I said, and I'm still worried, if we create weapons which we cannot control tomorrow, mutually assured destruction is going to happen. So CTBT has to be brought into force in some manner or the other, and that is the only method by which nuclear testing can stop. And if nuclear testing stops, then modernization of the nuclear arsenal will also take a beating. Countries will stick to whatever they are holding as nuclear weapons and keep them for their last minute use, should there be a nuclear war, which in my context is not good, or not in anybody's health to have a nuclear war. So to have a nuclear arsenal is definitely required because it gives you kind of deterrence. Having a nuclear delivery means is definitely required because then only the deterrence becomes credible. And thereafter, to be able to say that if tomorrow there is a need, I'll be able to also be counted in that volley when it so happens, is something which we need to put across. Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty was a very good means. We got out of it again, like I said, because it was discriminatory in the terms of being equated with the NPT as part of the treaty. I'm sure if it is renegotiated now, there could be new terms. For all you know, it might be the current start by President Trump might bring the CTBT back into focus. Countries and organizations like UN should take a lead and try and negotiate one and stop this testing once for all, so that there are no more modern nuclear weapons. And like General Dushyant and General Shankar said, Who wants space to be nuclearized? Because that is the most catastrophic thing that can happen to us. Because it's not just destruction on Earth; we will destroy the entire, solar system by creating this kind of debris in space. That is my way of looking at it. I look at a comprehensive test ban treaty with all provisions being, within the acceptable limits of all nuclear holding states, and thereby stopping this harakiri which is being triggered off by the nuclear weapon states.
Thank you so much, sir. Last question. This is General Shankar. War keeps everyone scared. Religion demands obedience, and illness is dependence. This is not chaos. It's a system working exactly as designed. Wouldn't going nuclear upturn the apple cart?
Yeah, it will. There's no this thing. Nuclear. When the day you talk of nuclear, you are upsetting everything. The normal norms of life get upset by nuclear capabilities. Period. Okay, so we have to prepare for it. So the moment you say testing, you are upsetting a whole lot of things. So this whole debate will restart and all that, and somewhere maybe all of us will be who are more interested in economy and want to make more money and GDP will say, "Yaar, mera GDP nikal jayega. Let me start getting back to CTBT." Maybe that's the way to go forward. Let's see.
Thank you so much, sir. And John Dow, thank you for becoming YouTube member. That brings us to a close of today's program. What a session it was. I wish more people watched it, but I'm sure this is going to go and grow and grow and grow. Thanks once again, gentlemen, and we'll see you all very soon. Namaskar.
Namaskar.